Hello and welcome to my channel. My name is Angie Strong and I'm a social studies high school teacher. Currently, I teach AP Human Geography, AP World History, and IB Global Politics. I have 10 years of experience, and today I am going to be discussing lesson planning tips as well as showing you guys my first week of lesson plans for the 2019-2020 school year. So let's get into it. So my first tip for you guys is to take a look at your standards, your key concepts, your whatever you call them in the state that you are in. For me, I teach AP and IB, and so our standards are pretty plainly laid out for us. For AP, they call it the CED, the Course and Exam Description, which is on the AP website. And then for IB, they have their own set of standards for the Global Politics course. And so that's the first thing I always do when I'm going to lesson plan is I take a look at what they say for each unit that the students need to know, whether it be concepts or vocabulary or just things. I write them down on a sheet of paper. I'm very old school that way. I know you could totally do a very fancy like Excel sheet and reference that, but I like to just write it on a piece of paper and then I go through and I actually just cross off everything they need to know. I'll show you guys that in a little bit. The second tip that I have for you guys is for you guys to remember that you are not an island. So what I mean by that is when I was a young teacher, I was always under the impression that I had to do everything by myself and that I needed to make sure that everything was the best that it could possibly be. But that's not necessarily the case, that you have a lot of people in your building that all have a tremendous amount of experience and also a tremendous amount of creativity. And so what I find myself doing more and more as the years go on is that I will actually go to teachers and I will explain to them what I want to do, what the students need to be able to do at the end, and then we kind of work it out. And by the end, I feel really solid about the plan that I've come up with for that lesson. And it doesn't have to be teachers in your own subject area. So for me, I usually collab with an English teacher and a math teacher at my school just because they're right next door, and we tend to come up with some really cool lessons together. And again, it doesn't make you feel like you're an island. And the last tip that I have for you guys today is making sure you lesson plan when you want to. And so let me explain that a little bit. Is most of us are planners. That's why we're teachers. I know myself, even though it's the middle of summer, I am, already planning out my first semester, my units and whatnot. But then during the school year, I refine that and I go back through and see what's going to be working for my students and what's not. But I always try and plan 2 days for lesson planning, whether it be during my prep period where I have, time to plan, or at the end of the school day. I am a high school teacher, so I don't really do before school planning because our first class starts at 7 a.m. So even if I get there at the earliest that I can get there, which is like 6 a.m., I am not going to be in the mindset to want to lesson plan. So what I mean by the 2 days is that I will usually plan Monday and Tuesday as one of my planning days, and then either Thursday or Friday as my other lesson planning day. And so what that does is that if Monday or Tuesday I'm just really swamped, I had a bad day, things that just happen, I can say to myself, it's okay, I have another time scheduled later on in the day, or later on in the week I should say, in order for me to have lesson planning time. And again, that's just more of refining for me, but for you, if you're not a big planner, then you have at least another opportunity. And I find that most of the time I will plan on a Monday or Tuesday, but then there's some days or some weeks I should say when you're just like, I'm gonna plan on a Friday. And that's okay, because you are a professional and don't let anybody tell you that you're not. So those are my 3 kind of just quick tips to help you lesson plan. And I know that they were quick, but I wanted to go into more depth with what I'm actually going to be planning the first week of school. And so what I want to do is show you my lesson plan book, tell you how I set it up, and then also give you guys resources on different websites so that you too can also plan some of these things to make your first week of school back a great one. So let's get started. So when I first start lesson planning, I have the standards in front of me, and then I also have these 3 things in order for me to do a good lesson for the week, or lessons for the week. The first thing that you see here is my notebook, and this is just where I write all of the vocabulary concepts and things that I have the students need to learn for a unit. So here I have one just for human geography. That's what my emphasis has been on this past week. So that's just what I have here. As you can see, it's incredibly messy, and I just cross out when I'm lesson planning, and I'm going to be including that topic in there. Very easy to keep track of. Then the next thing that I have is the planner that I used last year, and so this just makes it easy to me to reference what I did last year to this year, and especially as I get older, I tend to forget what I did the previous year, so it makes it easier for me to look to see. I also am being a reflective teacher, and I will go through and see what I want to change or improve for the next year, and that just makes it easier for you as you're going back through. And then finally, we have our lesson plan book for the current year. And as you can tell, it's really pretty. I really enjoy this. So let's just open it up and check out what I will be doing for the first week of school. So this is the Happy Planner, very popular amongst many teachers. And so what I do is I end up separating it into the 3 classes that I do teach. I've taught 4 classes before, but because we do have block periods every other day, so 80-minute periods, 4 classes a day is what the students have, and teachers teach 3. I just separated into A and B days. So you can see that up here, C, A, B, A, B. C is for common, so the first day we see them, all of them. So I just want to go through what I'm going to be planning on doing for the first week of school. If you teach AP, you know that both world history and human geography got a little bit of a redo or makeover in terms of the course and exam description. So that's kind of why I wanted to have this video in the summer, because I know for a lot of us, we're like planners and we want to know what changes are coming our way. So as you guys can see, for Monday when I see all of my classes, I have the same thing going on. So I have the first day paperwork, because at our school you have to do all that stuff first. And then I also have a getting to know your teacher activity. I got this from Right On with Miss G, and so I will go ahead and post that in the description in case you're interested in it. What it is that you allow the students to go around the room and to formulate kind of their description or summary of you as a teacher based on what you have in your room. They can open up your drawers. It's a really fun activity because it gets them a little bit more acquainted with you and your room. So let's go ahead and start with human geography, and I'll show you what I'm doing for the next couple of days when I see them. So for the bell ringer, what I'm going to start off with is going to be syllabus station. So it's going to be a little bit longer than a bell ringer, but I thought it would be good for the students to not only move around the room, but then also to be able to kind of understand that this is not a class where you just sit and get, but rather it's one of those classes where you move around. And so the syllabus stations is something else that I got from Right On with Miss G. I ended up tweaking it to fill a little bit more of what is in my classroom, but I will definitely post her link there. After that, we're going to go get our books, because it is an AP class, so we need to start reading the book right away. We use Cultural Landscape, 10th edition. And then lastly, I always finish off that first day with how to do reading notes. So I have a little handout for them, and I'll post a link to that as well, with a Q1 reading guide. And so all of that helps them to understand what I'm looking for in notes. At our school, we're really big on Cornell notes. So then the next thing that you guys see over here is for the bell ringer, they're going to SPN, SVHS. And so ESPN, is an acronym that human geography teachers use in order to describe an area economically, socially, politically, and environmentally. So it's EN actually. And so they do that for the school that I work at. And so then that way they can kind of see like, oh, this is economic, this is social, it's political, because a lot of students need help with that when they first come in. Then after that, we'll start with our first set of notes. I don't lecture very much in class, but in the first week, I kind of want them to kind of not get stressed out about an AP class. So we do some simple notes in class, and we finish up with a map projections assignment, which is just what they need to be doing in order to do well on the AP test. So then for my world history classes, on the next time I see them after the first day of school, they are going to be spicing SVHS. And so spicing is similar to ESPN, but in world history, we do add technology and interactions with the environment. And so it's a little bit different, but similar. And so same thing there. Syllabus stations from Right On with Miss G, and then also how to do notes. And then on Friday, when I see them once again, to kind of see what kind of background they have in history, we'll do a timeline sort. So I'll give them a bunch of events in history, and it is kind of like a puzzle. They get to work with their group, and so building a little bit of camaraderie there. We'll do some notes, and then finally we'll finish off the day where they're going to be creating a civilization one-pager from any of the early River Valley civilizations. And then lastly, global politics. So this is the class where it's a little bit different for me because it is a 2-year course under the IB curriculum. And so that means that on the first day, half of the kids know me and half of them don't, because you have the new kids and then of course the kids that have been in my class for a year. So I try and do things that are going to be stimulating for both experienced students and also the novice students. So as you guys can see, going to do again the syllabus stations. We're going to go get our textbook and we're going to look at Google Basics. And so what I mean by that is for the Google apps for education, we use them a ton in global politics. And so because of that, I want them to have a good reference point. To be quite honest, I haven't made this assignment yet, but when I do, I'll go ahead and add it to my description. And then on Thursday, the next time I see them, we're going to start with current events, and the students will have a lot to say. They're incredibly vocal about everything going on in the world, and so we will do a little bit of current eventing. Then we are going to go to team building with Model United Nations. That's what MUN stands for, because global politics and MUN are kind of similar, kind of not. I'll explain in a different video. And so then after we do some team building, the co-teacher, so the teacher for MUN and myself, will go over our expectations when we do in-class debates for any current event type of thing. And so as you guys can see, I try and keep it pretty simple, but at the same time, I try and do things that get the students engaged and moving around so that it's not a lot of sit and get the first week of school and kind of setting the tone for your classroom, because I myself am not one of those teachers that enjoy just students sitting around and just kind of not being engaged in their education. All right, so that's all I got for you guys this week. Thank you so much for joining me. And again, a lot of these links will be in the description if you would like to take a look. Please don't forget to like and subscribe. As you guys can see, my dog Zeppelin has joined us. So I will see you guys next time. Bye.